We were told to catch them all, but soon found out that we can't. In every Pokemon game, only a small handful can actually be caught. The rest are obtained through breeding, trading, and evolving, among other methods. These last two are the ones I want to focus on today. Since the first Pokemon games, trading has been an integral part of the series. It served as the basis for the 2-version game release that Pokemon is known for, and the creator of Pokemon even said that he was inspired to make the series after he saw 2 Game Boys physically linked together. While most Pokemon can be obtained by the 3 methods I mentioned earlier, some Pokemon can only evolve when they're traded. How trade evolutions worked changed as the series evolved, and we'll go over how right now. So drink some water, do your stretches, and let's get started. Oh look, Ditto wants you to support on Patreon. In order to truly appreciate how much trade evolutions changed over time, we have to think back to what it was like when Pokemon Red and Blue first released. We didn't have Wi-Fi battles, or global trading systems, or those newfangled phone catching games. We just had a Game Boy, and a dream to collect them all. This was an era of popular culture, especially Pokemon culture, where playground rumors were the strongest. We know the ones. Something hiding under a truck, evolving Charizard to a 4th evolution, and beating the Elite Four 100 times to have something special happen. Trading this Pokemon will make it evolve. It fits right in for the times. There are only 4 trade evolutions in the first set of games: Golem, Machamp, Alakazam, and Gengar. Trade evolutions are different from other methods because they were the first methods to involve other players when it came to collecting Pokemon. What stands out about them is how you first see them in the game, basically proving their existence to people who had never seen them before. First trade evolution you would fight is Alakazam at Sabrina's gym. Her yellow team is literally Abra's entire evolution line, removing all doubt that they were connected. Remember, of course, that back then, these games were new, game mechanics and all. Evolving a Pokemon in general was new, so special evolutions, like trade evolutions, stood out more. Sabrina is the 6th gym leader, and trainers wouldn't see more trade evolutions until the Elite Four. Machamp on Bruno's team, followed by Gengar on Agatha's team. Golem, on the other hand, was impossible to find in-game without trading for it. No trainer in the first generation had one, except for one trainer, and that trainer is you. In order to send home the idea that Pokemon can evolve simply by trading them, the upper versions of Japanese Red and Green actually gave players an in-game trade evolution for the first time. This actually happened before the games released worldwide. The Japanese Blue version gave us 2 in-game trades that teach us the mechanic more concretely. In Cerulean City, you can trade your Machoke for a Haunter, which will then evolve into a Gengar. In Cinnabar Lab, you can trade your Kadabra for a Graveler, which will then evolve into a Golem. When you finish the trade, the NPC you traded with will exclaim that the Pokemon you gave them just evolved. And that's how trade evolution as a mechanic was taught directly to players, concretely, for the first time. Does this sound familiar? It should and it shouldn't. The Japanese Blue version served as the groundwork for the international releases of Pokemon Red and Blue, but they used the game data from the Japanese versions of Red and Green. The end result was that we got the Japanese Red and Green in-game trades, but we also accidentally got the Japanese Blue in-game dialogue. So the meme that our Poliwhirl and Raichu evolved upon making trades makes so much more sense now. In light of this mistake, we can get a 3rd trade evolution. In Yellow, all versions of Yellow, you can trade a Cubone for a Machoke, which will evolve into a Machamp. So it kind of worked, but it may have confused international players at first. But really, this was the era of playground rumors, and it was also the era of guidebooks. And it was there that every trade evolution was laid out. Either way, that Poliwhirl trade dialogue may have been accidental foreshadowing for the next wave of trade evolutions. Gold and Silver brought us 6 new trade evolutions: Steelix, Scizor, Politoed, Slowking, Kingdra, and Porygon 2. Not gonna lie, these Pokemon were insanely cool back when they first came out, especially Steelix and Scizor, which are among the first Steel types in the whole franchise. Unfortunately, they also came with one of the most diabolical mechanics in the whole franchise: trading with items. These were even more obscure than Gen 1 because every trade evolution did not activate simply by trading in any item, but by trading them while they were also holding a specific item. Onyx and Scyther evolved with the Metal Coat, Poliwhirl and Slowpoke with the King's Rock, Seadra with the Dragon Scale, and Porygon with an upgrade. It may seem odd that every trade evolution from these games require each Pokemon to hold a specific item, but it's easy to forget that these were the first games that allowed Pokemon to hold items at all. The item trait evolution was extremely obscure. In a typical playthrough, trainers would only encounter Steelix and Kingdra through the story. Like, think of it this way. To evolve Slowpoke into Slowking, you need to trade while holding the King's Rock. So you'd think you need a King's Rock for a Kingdra, but you don't. Yeah, that's an English-only detail, but still. Without a guide or a knowledgeable friend, there's no way kids would figure out half of these evolutions out on their own. But, again, that's part of what made Pokemon Pokemon. Details about Mew were added at the last second for similar reasons. The game designers wanted people to talk about the game and try to figure out how to get these new evolutions together. And when it came to trades, back then, the only way to get them was by working together. I hope you like trade evolutions with items, because for the next few generations, every new trade evolution only evolves with an item attached, even new ones. But that also brings us to an interesting glitch that occurs in Generation 3. To understand this glitch, let's talk about stone evolutions. When you use an evolution stone on a stone evolution Pokemon, the Pokemon evolves and the stone disappears. That's expected. You use the item, and after it's used, it's gone. The same thing happens for Pokemon that have to hold items to evolve. Once the condition is met, the evolution takes place, and the item they're holding is more or less absorbed into them. Now back to trade evolutions. If you trade a Pokemon that evolves after a trade while holding a specific item, it will consume the item. So after your Porygon is traded, it'll absorb its upgrade and evolve into Porygon 2. Now, here's the glitch. All Pokemon that evolve by trading will consume their held item upon evolving, even if the item isn't related to their evolution. In other words, the Gen 1 trade evolutions will consume their item if they happen to hold one at the time they evolve. Oh, so you wanted to trade to get a Master Ball along with that Haunter? Too bad, it's gone now. Enjoy your new Gengar. But what makes this glitch stand out is with the item Everstone, which existed back in Generation 2 as well. If a Pokemon holds it, when it would evolve, it won't. This was true even for trade evolutions. But in Gen 3, the Everstone is consumed, and the evolution will happen anyway. What's most interesting about this is how they handled it in Gen 4. Basically, they fixed it for every single Pokemon except for one, Kadabra. Kadabra will always evolve even if it holds an Everstone. This isn't an error. It's a deliberately made exception, and it's been in every game since Generation 4. Maybe it has to do with Alakazam's exceptional mind. What is he thinking? Is he thinking what I'm thinking? How does he know what I'm thinking? He's in my head. 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 The only new trade evolutions in Gen 3 are Huntail and Gorebyss, which both evolve from Clamperl. And you can only get their trade items from a side quest in Slateport City, and you can only pick one of them per game. Plenty of games before and since Gen 3 have done something similar to encourage trading with other people, but this is the only case where trading itself is absolutely mandatory to get the Pokemon. Gen 4 brings us a bunch of new trade evolutions that behave basically the same as Gen 2's, but they're not as important as our story's arc villain, Mindy. Yes, Mindy, the dark mastermind who has tormented many souls unfortunate enough to cross her path. She sits at the darkest depths of Snowpoint City, an unsuspecting area that's pointed with the sharpest snow.
So pointy. Why does it point so much?
Inside her evil lair of evilness, she waits for trainers foolish enough to visit her and tempts them with her evil offer, her Haunter for a Medicham. And, no one cares about Medicham when you can get a Gengar, let's be real. But this trade is cursed.
So cursed. Why does it curse so much?
Once you receive your Haunter, you'll find that it does not evolve into Gengar, thanks to one of her many evil tricks of evilness. Her Haunter was holding an Everstone, meaning that this trait evolution was always destined
To fail.
and your poor Medicham's soul is lost away in the darkness forever. But like I said, no one cares about Medicham. But don't worry, my friends. There is a hero hidden in the temple, not far from Snowpoint City, and it comes in the form of Wild Steelix. Yes, you can find wild trait evolutions starting in Gen 4. This marks the first time in the entire series that you can. Steelix happens to be the poster child for wild trait evolutions. In Platinum, you can find Wild Steelix on Iron Island and Victory Road. And in Diamond and Pearl, you can find it in those locations, as well as Snowpoint Temple. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you can also find Wild Steelix in Mount Silver, as well as the game's new Cliff Cave on Route 47. Plus, after you beat the game, you're able to trade any Pokemon with Jasmine for a free Steelix. So while it doesn't evolve during the trade, you can still get one through a trade, as Arceus intended. This makes Steelix the first trade evolution Pokemon to appear in the wild in every game within one generation. But did you know that you can also get wild Gengar in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum as well? If you're playing on an original Nintendo DS and have any Gen 3 game in the Game Boy Advance slot, you'll be able to find it in the old Chateau. So even though Mindy may try to trick us with her evil powers, she can't stop us from getting a Gengar altogether. But this generation does start a new trend, now that the GTS and online trading have been introduced to the series. Strangely enough, it kind of changes how trade evolutions are approached by players, since some options are now available in the wild. Generation 5 continues this trend. Black and White gives us 4 new trade evolution Pokemon: Gigalith, Conkeldurr, Escavalier, and Excelgor. Unlike previous generations, no items are required to evolve these. Boldore and Girder will evolve into Gigalith and Conkeldurr, respectively, just by a simple trade. Meanwhile, Escavalier and Excelgor bring us the most interesting trade evolution method in the series. They don't need items to evolve, but their pre-evolutions, Carablast and Shelmet, need to be traded with each other. The lore of these Pokemon tie them together. Basically, they take elements from their trade partner to help them reach their new stage. These two are the only trade evolutions to do something like this, and it's interesting that it happens in this generation. Like we said, Gen 5 continues the trend of giving us wild trade evolution Pokemon. In Black and White, you can find wild Politoed, Slowking, Kingdra, Huntail, Gorebyss, and Milotic. Wait, something's off here. Yep, Milotic joins the trade evolution family, even though it was introduced 2 generations ago in Ruby and Sapphire. Originally, Feebas evolved by having a high beauty stat, which is something that can only be done in generations 3 and 4. But Gen 5 doesn't have a way to raise the beauty stat, so they added a new trading method instead. By trading a Feebas that holds a prism scale, it will feel pretty enough
So pretty. Why does it pretty so much?
to evolve into a Milotic once the trade is completed. But, like we said, you can also find Milotic in the wild, so it really doesn't matter. Black and White 2 swaps out Wild Slowking for Wild Steelix, marking its triumphant return. These games also have trades for Alakazam and Gigalith. But like Jasmine's trade in Gen 4, these trades are for the trade evolution Pokemon themselves, not their lower stages. In many ways, Gen 6 marks the beginning of the end for trade evolutions. There's 4 new trade evolutions in this game: Aromatisse, Slurpuff, Trevenant, and Gourgeist. Aromatisse and Slurpuff evolve once again by trading with items, while Trevenant and Gourgeist evolve by simple trades. But you don't actually need to trade for a Trevenant. For the first time, we have a trade evolution Pokemon that can be encountered in the wild in the same game it debuted. Once again, we have an in-game trade for a Steelix, and Politoed, Huntail, and Gorebyss. Gen 6 did bring an emphasis to some trade evolution Pokemon through Mega Evolution, such as Mega Scizor and Mega Alakazam, but trading for these Pokemon has become an easy task now that online trading and online battles have been fully established. But Gen 6 will be the last time we saw a brand new trade evolution, which was almost 13 years ago. Gen 7 only introduces 1 new trade evolution, and it's the regional form of Golem. But in Tapu Village, there's a trainer named Syl who wants a Haunter for an Alolan Graveler. Trading it will evolve it into Alolan Golem, but only in Sun and Moon. In the Ultra games, you can also trade a Phantom for another Phantom to cause its evolution. This is also done in the Tapu Village, and it's actually done by the same trainer, Syl. So I guess Syl is the lawful good to Mindy's chaotic evil. Either way, Alolan Golem is the last trade evolution the franchise has seen. If you don't count regional forms, then it's the 4 Gen 6 Pokemon. Speaking of Mindy, Gen 8 brings Mindy's return, but she's been completely stripped of her power. Online trading has been a thing for over a decade at this point, and almost every trade evolution Pokemon available in Sword and Shield can be found either in the wild or in a max raid den. Then we have Pokemon Legends Arceus, which changed the way we approach trade evolutions and basically buried the idea of trading entirely. Pokemon can't hold items in these games, and you need to complete your Pokedex in order to actually complete the game. So, for the first time in the series, Pokemon Legends Arceus gives you the ability to evolve every single trade evolution Pokemon available in this game without trading. Pokemon that evolve by trading with items now evolve by using that item like an evolution stone. Apply it to your chosen Pokemon and it'll evolve. For those that don't evolve with items, a new item was added, the Linking Cord. In total, 12 Pokemon that once evolved with trading no longer require it, and the rest of them can be found in the wild in other Generation 8 games. That brings us to present day, Generation 9. Scarlet and Violet brought back proper trade evolutions, but no new trade evolution Pokemon. But even then, trade evolutions have been trivialized. There are plenty of trade evolution Pokemon available in the wild, but what's more important is that every trade evolution Pokemon can also be found through Terra raids. Unlike Sword and Shield, which only gave us some of them, Scarlet and Violet gave us Terra raids for every trade evolution available in those games. Finally, we have Legends ZA. This is the only time trade evolutions have been given any emphasis in any way since the game shifted to 3D models. In ZA, you're given optional research tasks that can help you unlock some powerful TMs, a Master Ball, and the Shiny Charm. There's 2 tasks relating to trading. One if you evolve a Pokemon by trading with another player, and one if you evolve a Pokemon by holding an item but trading it. These tasks give you the highest point totals for a single task, and it's really the only incentive to perform a trade evolution in these games. Once Legends ZA gains compatibility with Pokemon Home, you can just send all of the trade evolution Pokemon over from the Gen 8 games. Unfortunately, you won't be able to send them back to those games, but if your goal is only to complete the regional decks for Legends ZA, you have nothing to worry about. Even then, ZA reduces the need for trading once you play the Mega Dimension DLC. Every trade evolution can be caught in it once you've completed the story. The DLC also gives you extra research tasks, but no new research rewards, so you'll always have enough points to get every research reward without trading. Even Porygon Z, the poster child of trade evolutions, can be found in the wild. Plus, in the DLC, there's a side quest where you can trade for a Porygon holding an upgrade. The game outright tells you that it's making the trade for Porygon Z easier for you, so you only have to trade with a real person one more time. To me, what really marks the farewell to trade evolutions is another in-game trade in Scarlet and Violet. There's a trader named Blossom who wants to trade your Pokemon for her Haunter, but unlike Mindy's Haunter, Blossom's will evolve. If Mindy is the evil twin, Blossom is the good twin who lifts Mindy's curse from us forever. While trading and trade evolutions will likely stay with the franchise into Generation 10 and beyond, I'm curious how they're going to approach it in the future. Will they return the Linking Cord to a future game? Will they ever give us a new trade evolution again? On top of that, I want to know, what's your favorite trade evolution Pokemon, and why? Let me know what you think in the comments, check out my Patreon, and thank you so much for watching.